Welcome to a evening workout training session with yours truly, Eden Hana Dragon. Get my name out of your mouth if it's not for a blessing. Fitness journey continues every day and just finished a more than 3 hours march. You can see the long videos. They're going to be posted tomorrow, the 14th of January. Today now, it's 8:44 p.m. and it's the 13th of January 2026. And gonna be working out, training, exercising like we did yesterday. You can check out the full video with this brick. We weighed yesterday. We put it on the scale and it's 5 kilos, so it's about 13.3, 13.4 pounds. Not that heavy, but kind of makes a good workout. I guess I already had my warm up, and we're gonna be hydrating with some tea. Thank you for the donation for the teas, and it's decaf. And after the workout, thank you for the donation for the food. We're gonna feast. Only half of these black bananas. There's 4 and 4, so that's 8, and some buns and some sandwiches and some chocolate, some caramelized white chocolate and black dark chocolate, a little bit of each, which is good to go. And we're watching, since my 49ers are going to play Saturday against the Seahawks. I'm watching week one, actually, 49ers of this season. Week one, we played against the Seahawks, and now we're going to be fighting the Seahawks this Saturday. So that's what I'm watching, a little bit of a gridiron. We're going to do some meditations. Stretch before commencing all your bodily limbs. Always freestyling, always go party, Mr. Irrelevant, always faithful. Please, NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, reduce the cost of their tickets. Earlier, I had a little bit of brain fog. I got stuck on a mathematical question. I guess some high school students will put me to shame, but I'm good at some percentages, some fractions, I guess. I'm still above average in mathematics, although some other things I'm not too proficient as, but I'm great at geopolitics. That is my realm, my kingdom, my domain, coupled with rock and roll, and nobody marches and dances like yours truly, priestess of the goddess, each and each. And nobody marches like dragon, and nobody dances like priestess Hannah, which is yours truly, double trouble. Always for the firefighters, the bakers, the butchers, the nurses, the doctors, the electricians, the plumbers, the welders, the construction workers, and financially stressed, but I'm grateful, thankful my rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, and I came here, I moved here in this underground room off St. Temple here in Montreal, Hawk Island, with nothing, and well, a high school diploma, I guess, and I don't even know if I have any of the clothes except that black jacket with just a military style, Pentagon style, George Patton style with those gold and silver buttons on it, which is 5 stars and two. They're olive branches. They look like well, it could be Republic or Empire, right? As we're gonna lay the foundations of the Imperial Republic, the Imperial Republic, by fusing Canada and the United States in the '63 and implement my Trinity of theories as a universal revolutionary centrist. You have this chair, red chair. We can work out, see on the chair like that. Here I can work out the arms there on the chair. I had that red, black and orange and yellow dragon flag on the chair, but I gotta wash it. And we have to wash it before the full moon and the new moon on the 18th. So maybe we're gonna wash it just before the full moon in February, and March is gonna be a blood moon. And you know how we celebrate the sunrise, the sunset every day since I died of COVID. Right in this room off St. Temple between February 2020, mid-February 2020 till about mid-March 2020, right in this room off St. Temple. I survived COVID. I had COVID, and I was really sick. COVID was really hardcore for yours truly. It was tough times. I thought I was gonna die, and I didn't. I survived, and I guess I survived with a certain purpose, for pleasure on purpose, and my encouraging all in acts of goodness and kindness, sometimes in a non-sectarian manner. As this Quebec Canadian always puts it up for the 10, the 50, and the 3 for the 63, as I was born in a past life, previous incarnations in the United States 3 times, post 7076, once as a woman, twice as a man, served in the same United States Armed Forces in 2 different wars, 156 years apart, and now watching some gridiron. Gonna watch some Seahawks, only Seahawks. Gonna watch today on this workout, only Seahawks, and I started with the 1 week. In the first week of this season, we met the Seahawks. There's Birdie! Birdie! Mr. Irrelevant passes through. McCaffrey pushes into bounds and pushes. Wow, he fought 4.5. Wow, so many yards he got. That's a great play. It's third period. 13 minutes, 44 seconds to go. We were down 10-7. You know how we gotta do it, but we're gonna face them. And we lost Super Bowl 58, but faithfully, Empire Rebirth time with Birdie, and gonna win the Super Bowl 60, 61, 62nd, and 63rd in a row for a great dynasty. 4 in a row. I won 4 Super Bowls with Birdie in a row. I won 4, 60, 61, 62, and 63, 60, 61, 62, and 63, and we put it up always for the 10, the 50, and the 363 North American complexes. Yours truly right here, independent artist and athlete, encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. We're going to need to mass finance fitness, mass finance the rehabilitation of our infrastructure and roads and bridges and domains. And I was a bit moody earlier, on and off moody, but it's been a long time. I'm no longer depressed and suicidal. You know, I was, and I survived that, being depressed, suicidal for a few years, and almost took my life out. And suicidalness and depression is something that affects a certain percentage of the population. Something in my eye. I got out of that, and it was years ago, and crossing Canada coast to coast changed my whole life. That event, I always recall it, and as part of my initiatives and call, basically my dream, which manifests as the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, the Imperial Republic of the 63, which we're going to lay the foundations as a mass public-private partnership in Concordia. All my work is fundamentally a call for a support initiative and mass implementation of my strategies and policies and protocols and programs and initiatives via and vis-a-vis a mass public-private partnership across the North American collective, fundamentally and for world peace. But regardless, to say that myself as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. I have proof, and I have the videos online dating, of course, from 2019 in October, when I have predicted that there was going to be an international conflagration such as we see now, and that's what I predicted. And of course, it has been moving towards an international conflagration, aka World War III, the world that is, just like I have predicted it, as I'm flipping this 13.3 or 13.4 pounds, more than 5 kilos brick. So working out just like yesterday. The upper body now, because a few hours earlier I was marching. You can see the full videos of those marches, and for years and years and years, you know, with my neurological mental divergent condition, I have a routine, and that routine is a ritualized like routine. People like myself with Asperger's, which constitute less than 1% of the population, right? We're not a lot of people in the world. As a matter of fact, last time I mentioned to somebody that I have Asperger's, aka high functioning autism, they're one and the same. They didn't even know. Not a lot of people know what Asperger's is. It's because it's rare, right? So it's not a mental illness. It's not a disease. It's just our brains are different fundamentally, and because we have at the micro level we have these mutations, and so we process information differently. And certain things, such as unwritten social norms and social cues, and certain dynamics of social knowledge, and that come easy for you, the vast majority of the population, can be harder for Aspies, and we can be labeled sometimes strange, weird, awkward, and bizarre in certain aspects. Although paradoxically, as I always put in parentheses, the double DD, the fact that yes, Aspies, we can have a disorder and disability in certain cases. It's complementary by another parenthesis, which is SS, special skills, and that kind of supersedes it and kind of cancels on the nose and gives it a more plus in certain situations, but certainly not when it comes to employment levels. Unemployment, that is, for Aspies is very high. Stands at, although we are less than 1% of the population, the unemployment levels stand at sometimes even higher than 80%. Imagine fraction, that's 4 out of 5, that's 8 out of 10 Aspies are unemployed. So that's 11 times higher than for you the statistics concerning you, the vast majority of the population, which you constitute the 99% of the population. So I always got to salute my fellow Aspies in that regards. And for me, since Aspies, we have trouble making friends and maintaining long-term friendships. I don't will to waste nobody's time, and friends with benefits only, friends with benefits only. And don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. And that's just how we rock and roll, don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. And you gotta be 18 plus, regardless if you're black or white or rainbow, because I am androgynous, pansexual myself, part of the LGBTQ community. But if you're black or white or rainbow, you gotta be 18 plus if you want to be friends with benefits. We can trade some massages, and I wish I could afford to go get a special massage therapy sessions, because I live a very active lifestyle and have done so for years, and I recommend strongly the mass financing in concordance with the mass public-private partnership thereof to mass finance our citizenry, incentivized by even financial means for healthcare and wellness as a mass public-private partnership collaboration across the North American Collectif, as I'm calling on the NFL, National Football League, on the NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, and MLB, to mass finance fitness and finance women's sports, especially PVHL. They rock and roll with that, rock and roll on those pucks, on those skates, skating rock and roll in style. And of course, the financing and the reduction of the tickets is necessary. My calculation, 44.9%. The tickets to be reduced, and some tickets to be given to the public workers and support the dream, the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, which is fundamentally a public-private partnership that yours truly calls all to institute and collaborate on. American Canadians, Canadians Americans, and this North American right here in this Hawk Island, Montreal, from Quebec. I gotta give a shout out to Hydro Quebec for that's why I'm able to do this video, this work with kilowatts of that electricity, which does not pollute, and to watch this video of those 49ers versus the Seahawks in week one of this season of the NFL. And now it's a tie game with 7 minutes, 44 seconds to go. It's 10-10. It was 10-10. It's a great game, and they gotta get 6 yards to the left, 6 yards down the middle, 6 yards to the right, to the left, and to the middle. That's 18 yards. You get that first down. You gotta go for more yards thereof, and you get some yards, and do some workouts, and score a touchdown and win a game. So yard by yard, inch by inch. There's party number 13 flies one, rocks and rolls it. He jumps. Oh, he got picked up, intercepted by number 29. That was an interception in the fourth period. So that was a bad turnover. And now, he's going to try to get those runnings, the running game, number 9, Sam Darnold is a pretty good quarterback. He got 93 yards already in this game. Wow, 93 yards. Well, it's not that many, 93 yards in the game versus San Francisco, but he's pretty good quarterback. They got a strong team. They finished a good season to make it to the playoffs. So we're facing a strong team. Although we defeated the Eagles, they're reigning champions with those long passes. Sometimes you got to get for the 44 yards, try that Hail Mary, and get that double trouble, get it in halfway. 37-yard field goal attempt, and that was good. And 13-10 now. 3 minutes to go. 3 minutes 24 seconds on the clock. Play action, play motion. Purdy from the pocket moves. Ooh, tries a rocket right into the hands of number 1. Wow, that was a pass. I think that was 44 yards. I'm not putting the audio because I don't want my video to get bugged. But Purdy got 1 touchdown, but he threw two interceptions. But he has already 269 yards. There's Purdy from the pocket. 1 minute 44 seconds to go. 1 minute 44 seconds. 1 minute 41 seconds. Passes. Oh, touchdown. 88. What a game. 88. Touchdown with 93 seconds to go. Purdy, touchdown. Dunges, Jake. Oh, yeah. 16-13. That was a great pass. God, great effort. 269 yards he had already. I had more than 275 yards, for the game. Although he threw 2 interceptions. I guess he made them come back. But 3 interceptions, that was costly. But they weren't able to score. Our defense was blocking good because it wasn't that high of a score. Eh? The score ended number 88, but it was wow. What a number 88 is surrounded by almost 3 players, and then yeah 17-13. 70 seconds to go. Ooh, he caught it. He caught it. Yeah, 66 seconds to go. Eh? Number 11, he caught it. He has big yard gains. 17-13 49ers. Ooh, they're 44 seconds on the clock. Number 14, snaps. Ooh, fumble recovery. That was a game, eh? Check the ending on that game. Check the last 2 minutes. Oh, 49ers, Bosa's out for that. Bosa's out. Bosa sacked. The quarterback, Donald, Bosa's out, though. We don't have Bosa for the playoffs, so that's going to be imagine with Bosa missing top defensive player, Bosa, Nick, bust them up, but that's something which we got to be think about that as the strategies to move forward, that the 49ers lack a strong defensive player, and in week 1, Bosa sacked the quarterback right there. Yeah, it was a fumble recovery. It was partially a sack. It wasn't really considered a sack, and that's it. What an ending. Thanks to the defense, because they were so close. They were like 15 yards to score, eh? So, if they would have decided to go with a field goal, it wouldn't have now worked because it would have been 17-16. So they had to score a touchdown to win. But Bosa, what an effort for Bosa. So week 1 against the Seahawks, this one I have to watch it again. I'm going to have to watch it again, but we're going to watch it again later, maybe tomorrow. And now, in week 1, we face the Seahawks, eh? In week one, we face the Seattle Seahawks. And now we're going to face them in the playoffs, Saturday, in 8 p.m. EST, 5 p.m. Pacific time. What a game. 17-13. By 4 points we won. It's like last game we won by 4. We defeated by 4 points also. 23-19, the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning champs. Sam Darnold's a good quarterback, but Bosa came up big. Defensive players like sacked because they were going to score it. They were so close, they were going to score the touchdown. So it was pretty much a last strong defensive play with the last minute to play. They were so close to the touchdown, but check it out for yourself. Week 1, San Francisco 49ers versus Seahawks. So we're going to meet them again, eh? This time in the playoffs. They had a great run. They had a great season. So that's something which we're going to check. So now we're going to check Thursday Night Thriller. Los Angeles 3 weeks ago. Los Angeles, but that's the full game. Los Angeles Rams versus Seattle Seahawks. I guess we can watch the whole game. We're going to have to watch it all, but let's watch the highlights from 2 months ago. Houston Texans versus Seattle Seahawks. Let's watch that one. I'm gonna hydrate a bit. So now we're gonna just watch some Seahawks just to see, what we're up against. As 49ers, sometimes you have to, as in football, you gotta study the opponent, I guess. And I'm all for collaboration and for SSD, security service and defense, for the Dragon Army to be implemented, of course, across the North American Collective. Gonna hydrate with some tea. Hydrate with some THYDRATE. Continue this workout and analyze some football. At this point, the Texans were 2-3 and Seahawks were 4-2. What happened? Was it a touchdown? What happened? Oh no, it was a defensive play, a sack. Ooh, by the ankle, Achilles heel almost. That was a sack. By the Achilles heel. You gotta check that playoffs to get sacked like that. Strong team, Seahawks, eh? Strong team. Oh yeah, gonna get sacked, There's Donald from the pocket, right in like a rocket for about 6-7 yards. Again, I don't have the commentary on. So what I like about this brick is that it has that little hole there inside, see? A hole, so you kind of check it out in and you can hold it, but put the finger in it like that. Just clock it in, just bring it in, and it's still pressure, Still, if it's not that heavy, but depending how you place it, right? The heaviness can have effect on the body, because now pretty much I'm working out my upper body as my legs get a more than 3 hour marching, and that's always 24/7, and more workout dedicated to my fellow Aspies, and pledge your allegiance to our family, or if you're 18 plus, you got to be born before January 12, 2008, because 2026, my bonus 2008 is 18, so if you're black or white or man or woman, a woman or a man, or rainbow or black or white or rainbow, and either a man or a woman, you want to be friends with benefits, always open, we can do that. Friends with benefits, rock and rolling 24/7 for the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the truckers, the plumbers, those nurses now finishing their 12-hour shift anywhere across Canada, United States, always for the 63, the 10, the 50, and the 3 always. For the 63, let our empire rise and be, and you know how it's been since 2018. It's been a Dragon versus Trump session edition 2018, eh? Since 2018, I have been and will continue to challenge Granddaddy Trump. These red gloves, thank you my anonymous friend for gifting me these red gloves. Back, of course, in 2018 when Donald Trump made the first mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. Granddaddy Trump knows that I am no MAGA. I'm a universal revolutionary centrist in the Imperial Democratic Republic, or Imperial Republican Democracy, which we're going to establish in a concordat of a mass public-private partnership wherein we're going to finance fitness, establish and create the Universal Exchange Unit, and do a great census and mass finance healthcare, mass finance fitness, and build the Imperial People's Coliseum as the biggest ever structure ever built in terms of sports on the Canadian-US border, which is going to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. Caesar Superdome before used to be known as the Mercedes-Benz Dome and Arena, Mercedes-Benz, and before that Louisiana Superdome, and now it's known as the Mercedes-Benz. And not before it was Mercedes-Benz, now is known as the Caesar Superdome. And several Super Bowls were fought, played, battled out there. Super Bowl 47, one of my favorite Super Bowls, known as Super Bowl 47, aka Bro Bowl, Blackout Bowl, Harbaugh Bowl. Super Bowl 47 has several nicknames. My 49ers lost Super Bowl 47 as we lost 11 years after Super Bowl 58 2 years ago with Purdy, then with Colin Kaepernick. I watch that Super Bowl every year. Sometimes I watch it twice or 3 times a year. Super Bowl 47, as I watch pretty much some Super Bowls over and over and over, especially those where my 49ers win. As we won, one of the top favorites is when we won by 55-10 against the Broncos, right? So, yeah, I got these red gloves gifted by 2018, 7 years ago, around October, by my anonymous friend who, if I make $1 million, gonna give half, and auctioning them for $1 million to give half to my anonymous friend in consequence, of course, in all the implementation where we have to be in those consequential appellations. And I have been and will continue to challenge Donald Trump to that boxing match on the Canadian-US border. Let's build that mega big coliseum and inaugurate it. The inauguration event is going to be Dragon versus Trump in a sportsmanship like conduct. It's not going to be anything else than sportsmanship, and that's what we're going to apply. The protocols, initiatives of yours truly, philosophies as a sportsmanship like conduct, especially vis-a-vis all our fellow citizens and all who come to join us, as we're going to do a great census and establish a united currency, a united security, service, and defense complex by fusing the RCMP and the FBI, getting rid of the border, creating a census and building the 4, along with the Forgotten Goddess temple. She doesn't need me to build her temples because she's got the pyramids, but the Forgotten Goddess spit, yours truly, and I got credited 718 trillions of kisses, parallel with the flare of the dragon, the sun eye of the sun, the dragon. Credited trillions of marching steps, so I got trillions of marching steps trillions of kisses, trillions of marching steps. In consequence, lots of that good rock and roll, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3. Always for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, and there's a field goal which is missed. Or that was interested. We can put our hands up in here and just lift up ourselves up and work out those arms, upper body. We're going up and down. Feel the triceps, feel the biceps. You know, that's what's good about this chair. I can go up and down because it's solid, sturdy. And thank you, my anonymous friend who gifted to yours truly. And those gloves, I had them for 7 years now, you know, since 2018. I've been challenging Granddaddy Trump to a boxing match. Now, of course, I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist. And as an Aspie, you know, people like myself with Asperger's, we have special interests. And when it's concerning those special interests, we can be super intense, super focused, super concentrated when we're involved in those special interests, especially when my regards to my special interest is I spend hours and hours a day analyzing, and I take great pride in my independent geopolitical, theoretical, analytical, philosophical, and work, and of course developing strategies. Mostly the strategies are for the North American collective in consequence, you know, the North American collective in consequence, of course, to the plurality of the world of geopolitics, which encompasses a wide, even sports, right? I wrote a paper years ago about the geopolitics. I wrote lots of papers and lots of oral presentation in my lectures and discourses over the past 7 years, especially since 2019. Once again, I go back in time to October 2019, just before I had COVID. I started a series, the World War III series, and consequently I also created a workout training program system designed made to go hand in hand with such a scenario as the aforementioned conclusion that humanity is set towards the course of an international conflagration, and the world has pretty much followed the pattern, especially in the world of geopolitics, as I have predicted it back in 2019. So back to Asperger's, this neurological mental divergent condition known as HFA, and Asperger's is one of the same. They merged circa 2013, 2014. And again, we're not a lot of Aspies in the world, and you know, we have certain difficulties and obstacles. And myself, it took years and years and years to finally accept my Asperger's and autism, which is basically high functioning autism is Asperger's. And since about 2015, 2016, I was told by several citizens, individuals who have experience working with autistic people and people who are on the spectrum Aspies. And of course, that is the consequential appellation where I have, of course, myself made the progress and to accept it around autumn 2022. So it's been about 3.5 years, about 3.5 years since I have accepted it. So it took me about 7 years to finally accept my Aspiness and my neurodivergence, the fact that I am an Aspie, I have Asperger's, and so I, like many Aspies, have these special ritualized routines and have, of course, special interests, and those special interests can be super focused, highly intense, highly focused, highly specialized, and of course concentrated. And my holy trinity of special interests is 24/7: sports and fitness, geopolitics, rock and roll, sports and fitness 24/7. I take great pride in having created a simple, efficient workout training program system which requires no equipment. In parallel, of course, to that workout training program system which I created, I also concluded that humanity is set towards an international conflagration. And of course, vis-a-vis that, I also developed strategies for the defense of the North American collective in terms of the implementation of my trinity of theories, such as fusing the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, with the RCMP into the Imperial Police Service, the IPS, based on established, of course, protocols for both FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the RCMP as it relates to domestic security and all the security on the services that they provide. And of course, overlaying with the overarching Dragon 911 North American Collective Protocols for SSD, Security Service, and Defense. I don't want to espouse too much academic, philosophical, intellectual analysis at this point in time, but provided you can get acquainted with hundreds of my transcripts from the past 3.5 years, you can get an idea. And of course, you have several common denominators which have to be taken into consideration, especially the fact that my prediction from 2019 has, of course, occurred, and the world has changed fundamentally. The order as we had known it for several decades, especially after the fall of the Soviet Union, the world has basically fundamentally changed, and we have certain vulnerabilities, especially due to the DMAA, Direct Military Assistance and Action, which is a NATO, which I am calling for NATO to implement it, and in the Imperial Republic of the 63, which we're going to fuse perpetually, Canada, United States, into the Imperial American Canadian Imperial Republic. Our common foreign policy will take into consideration the DMAA, the Direct Military Assistance and Action, and in parentheses, its potential consequences vis-a-vis other governments and nation states and civilizations or regions or alliance organizations of nation states alliances vis-a-vis the potential consequences by, for example, covert sabotage or espionage, or even providing support for transnational criminal organizations, as we have seen that. Gotta salute the RCMP for, in October 25th, 2024. It's been about 13 months ago, more than a year ago, but not so long ago. The RCMP dismantled in Canada the biggest ever fentanyl drug laboratory, the biggest super lab in history. And just that one lab in BC, British Columbia, which was ran and operated by a transnational criminal syndicate organized group, it had the potential to kill the population of Canada twice over. And you can check my transcripts for a few years now. More and more I had labeled and had to label or rather designate fentanyl, or at least the one that's operating in the street, not the legal one, of course. That's on the medication and under standards of operation for our the standards, medicinal and healthcare standards. But the ones that on the streets, I said more and more, I had a suspicion that it was tampered with, and there was some nefarious elements, that it was more converted to become a bioweapon, because it financially, mathematically, of course, in the financial mathematics, it wouldn't make sense that so many people are dying of fentanyl, since the motive for the drug dealers would be monetary financial gain, to buy 44 cars and 3 mansions and palace and what have you. And of course, since you would want that individual who is a drug dealer, drug kingpin, traffics fentanyl, would want the consumers to keep buying. But if there are so many deaths, it doesn't make sense from the mathematical financial calculation. So I was under the suspicion that fentanyl, of course, has been weaponized as a mass weapon of mass, so a sort of a bioweapon. And it could be potentially due to the DMAA and the consequences of the DMAA. The DMAA is my theory philosophy, and it's not just a theory and philosophy. It is a protocol to be initiated and to be implemented as a foreign policy for both Canada and the United States, as we're going to fuse and merge into the Imperial Republican complex. And NATO, it's fundamentally developed for NATO, as the motto of NATO is Animus inconsuelo liber, Animus inconsuelo liber, mind unfettered in deliberation. And of course, this mind unfettered in deliberation is, of course, the strategies which we're going to implement, of course, for the relationships where we have now to be relegated ourselves, and of course to develop furthermore on the construction of the appellations of where we are now at this point in time, in the majesty of this progression and the great upheavals which are happening worldwide, and especially to a potential escalation of conflicts and new, what I call super conflicts, such as China and Taiwan, which can potentially escalate. And it can happen that China, of course, invades by force the Taiwan, which is the ROC, right? Our Republic of China. Taiwan, the island of Taiwan, is officially named Republic of China, while mainland China is officially known as the People's Republic of China. And just like I'm going to go back in time again to 2019, because one of my main premises, one of the main motives of me concluding that humanity is set again towards an international conflagration was due to the fact that many nation state civilization regions did not fully resolve their conflicts from the 20th century, especially from the Cold War period. Now, the Cold War lasted almost 45 years, between March 1947 and the end of December 1991. December 26, 1991 was the end of the Soviet Union, the dissolution of the Soviet Union, right? And so If you look at Russia, Ukraine, this is a conflict which dates from the which is unresolved from the Soviet era, such as Israel Palestine and Israel Hamas. Hamas is an organization was founded in around 1987 during the Cold War period. Another one was India and Pakistan. Pakistan and India are also their conflict dates from the Cold War period, and another conflict which is Taiwan and China, of course. So here I always say in the North American Collective we made many compromises, such as the what I call the Great Linguistic Compromise for the preservation of the French language here in Quebec. 9 million Quebecers, which is going to be 163, because we're going to concord one for all for one, and for SSD, security, services, and defense, and of course for the strategies which are going to implement for mass response and fuse the institutions and create the two superseding complementary public-private partnership institutions for the 21st century: the Dragon Army, aka the Imperial Integrated SSD Legion, security, service, and defense, and emergency response as well. And the Dancing Goddess Army, the Imperial Integrated Dance League, to dance for the environmental action and the protocols of course, affirming the action. As we're going to have to take some action. There's a ball. Wow, right into the hands of number 14 as it goes for that rock and roll, catches it. And that was a great catch. So all these, it's a bit of a spark of the strategies, policies, implementations of yours truly, artist, athlete, philosopher, and independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, strategist, and thinker, and philosopher who, of course, now is financially stressed, but gotta be grateful that my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee, and paid my Netflix. Still gonna have to watch that Umbrella Academy season 3 and 4. Probably over the weekend, gonna binge it, if not by before the Super Bowl. We're gonna get that Netflix for February as well. Please, millionaires, billionaires, owners, producers of the entertainment and the NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB, please give some charity, do some donations, and reduce the cost of the tickets. Millionaires, billionaires, Wall Street, we're going to work together in a mass public-private partnership. My brother, citizen Scorpio Bill Gates. Bill Gates of my Scorpio brother, I'm inviting for a session of live streaming computer science question and answers with Bill Gates. Yours truly, in a parallel life, I design, build supercomputers, satellites, microchips. I'm also an Aspie, but in that parallel life, my special interest is science, science and technologies, and I build supercomputers, microchips, ICBM rockets, and computer networks, and antennas, and everything to do with telecommunications and science and technology. And I build, design ICBM rockets, intercontinental ballistic missiles, satellites, supercomputers, microchips, phones, smartphones, gadgets, everything to do with technology, science, and telecommunication. That's my special interest, and that's what I work in the year of darkness. Parallel timeline, parallel life in the year of darkness 2030, going on that February year of darkness 2030, and sometimes I connect with my parallel self. I get headaches from the science and technology information and wisdom and knowledge imparted. And then my parallel self also gets headaches from the from the rock and roll songs that I send my parallel self as a scientist and me parallel as an artist, philosopher. So we give each other headaches, in other words, the scientist and the artist. But I guess we build bridges, and that was a game. Seahawks. Now we're gonna check Seahawks week 4 versus the Cardinals. I'm not gonna do a long workout because gotta get a little bit of that rock and rolling feasting, but it's gonna do about an hour, Watching some Seahawks, doing some upper body. Oh, that felt good. Doing some upper body work, some biceps, some upper body, and I've been on a fitness journey since 2017. I lost between 80 and 93 pounds. And crossing Canada really changed my whole life. I spent a few years, almost 3 years, 2.5 years, depressed and suicidal from about autumn 2014 till about summer 2017, and I crossed Canada coast to coast, ocean to ocean with my anonymous friend. I still have the tickets, and I'm auctioning those tickets for $1 million. That's a great event which changed my life, because maybe I would have ended it, and that's what it is with that. And that's why we gotta get on that rock and rolling, and sometimes we just gotta get it on the drill to get the phenomenons and changed our life. Many people deserve second and third chances. I say that I didn't die in that underground room of Sun Temple where I used to live before. I used to live 11 years ago in a small basement. I was very moldy, had lots of mold. I didn't even have a bathtub. I'm grateful, thankful I have a bathtub now. It was like a small prison cell. It wasn't really a prison cell, but I say always that I served my time there. I don't know how many years I lived there, but at least 4. I was there at least since late 2010, early 2011. So if I moved this July 2015, I came here 10 years ago. July is going to be 11 years this July. So, wow, yeah. Because I have blackouts of memory. I have trouble remembering my life prior to 2014. About 2014, that's early January, February 2014 or late 2013. Before that date is like blackouts and flashes. So technical term is retrograde amnesia. So sometimes memory comes back. I don't know if I was a junkie, if I was doing drugs, and I still have to retrieve some archives from the Jewish General Hospital. Years and years ago, I survived a vicious surprise attack. I was hit in the head and I had a dislocated right arm, right shoulder. I was bloodied up. I went to the Jewish General Hospital. They cracked back my right arm and the emergency room, and I was put on some medication. And I want to go retrieve the archives. I want to know when did I go, and they put my arm in like a cast and like bandages and some plastic, and I was given some meds and for pain, and maybe the medication caused or the mold there, or maybe I was a junkie, or maybe because I was attacked by surprise, basically a vicious surprise attack. I survived a vicious surprise attack. I was hit in the head, fell, hit my head on the concrete, and that dislocated right arm, right shoulder. And yes, I don't like violence at all. I don't like violence, but I'm hyper vigilant. I have this hyper vigilance extreme, I guess, hyper vigilance, but I don't like violence. And you can always put the gloves if you want. Sportsmanship. That's why we got sports and fitness, and rules like football. If you have aggression or violence, to put the channel it, channel it, just like sexuality, But for as long as I can remember, I'm in the open. I mean, since I have songs about homoerotic LGBTQ theme, rock and roll rap songs dating from 2013 written, which I have some on the paper, such as doing that black and white and a rainbow, just like I'm the rainbow. Julius Caesar or the homos. I do that black and white and a rainbow. Julius Caesar of the homos. I do that black and white and a rainbow. Julius Caesar of the homos. Rock and rolling, yeah. So that's what it is with that rock and roll, but that's just a part of impartation, But sometimes memory comes back, but it doesn't really matter, It's a long time ago, 2014, January. We're January 13th today, 2026. So if you say to do the mathematical calculations, January 2014, that's going to be 12 years ago. So I have a very good memory of the past 11 years or so, 11 years and a half. Then after that, like, it's like blackouts, but basically personal memories of high school, childhood, adolescence, early adulthood. Before that time, it's retrograde amnesia or certain forms of amnesia do not affect linguistic skills. So that's why I'm still can do math, and I do math constantly every day, but especially when it comes to calculating prices and percentages. I am above average in, I guess, subtraction, addition, and some percentages. But today, it was a question, maybe the wording and how it was phrased, that there was a bit of a problem. I just I spent like 44 minutes, almost 45. Well, I saw some of it, but I don't know, there was just something about it, just maybe the words about it. But besides that, I love math. I can do it for hours and hours and hours, especially as calculating price ratio, which I do on a daily basis, and calculating, of course, cost of gas and how cost of living has increased in the percentages compared to the salaries and the proportions. For example, the weight, if you have two products and one product has 20, let's say 20 grams, or let's say by grams, let's say one product has 100 grams, and that's product is $2. If the it has 100 grams and it costs $200. If that same product is $3 and it has 50 grams, the ratio between them. So I calculate that kind of immediately when I do the price comparison. So for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say coffee. For example, in my specific case, I bought this 50-gram coffee. It's 50 grams, but I paid 99 cents for it. However, I bought three, so that's $3 for 50 times 3 is 150. So that's $3. And there's on the market also for one box, that's 150 grams. So exactly the same quantity that I purchased, but that exact same quantity is $6.49. So what did I save? You do $6.49 minus 3. So that's $3.49. So I saved more than half, right? Of course, the quality might not be the same, but the quantity of the coffee, instant coffee, in this case instant coffee to be specific, instant coffee, I bought for $3, 150 grams, and another time I bought for the same amount, 150 grams, but I paid $6.49. So I paid $3.49 more. So basically, buying three like this, I save money, right? But it's not the same quality, right? So those types of mathematics, I can do so much, just hours and hours a day, just doing those calculations. And when I go to the market, to the supermarket, I do them automatically. I'm not a mathematician or advanced mathematics, nothing like that. I'm not that good at computers. Not all Aspies, About 1 out of 5, 20% of Aspies are good at computer science. So that does not include the whole population of Aspies who are good at computer science. The vast majority are not. But there's true that there's a disproportionate amount of Aspies compared to the neurotypical population who are good above average in math. And it seems that I have not lost my math skills, although I don't remember high school. I don't remember high school. I have trouble remembering my life, personal memories of before late 2013, early 2014. So I have a very good memory of, let's say, the past 11 years and 11 months. 11 years, 11 months, As we advance, it's going to be 12 years in February and then 12 plus. But it doesn't really matter. What matters, I came here with nothing, But sometimes memory comes back and doesn't. And pretty joyous overall. I live with my scars. I'm a mystic. I believe in reincarnation. I was born as a man, a woman, a woman, a man, a woman, a man, a woman, a man, man, a woman, a woman, man, man, a woman, a woman, a man. From ancient Egypt, priestess for the pyramids until today, and born in the United States 3 times post 1776, twice as a man, served in the same United States Army. Those 2 wars that I served in the same United States Armed Forces were 2 different wars, 156 years apart, and once I was born as a woman, and here I am now, with trillions of kisses credited from the goddess, because it's always God bless, and God is kiss, God bless, and God is kiss, the coming of our Imperial Republic. And I got the most kisses credited of any man in the world, so I guess that makes me maybe the richest man, woman, man, by having 718 trillions of kisses. And pledge your allegiance, legions, if you want some. If you're an enemy, let it be pestilence. If you're an enemy, let it be pestilence. If you're an enemy, let it be pestilence. So otherwise, we're gonna rock and roll with kisses and march. And I'm not totally selfless. I don't make pretense that I am. And I want my wafers and some massages to give and to receive, always give and receive, and some justice, some righteousness, because we're going to be the empire of the free, the brave, the strong, but also the loving and the just. Because Canada here, I got Canada tatted up. See, Canada, I got always the flag is on yours 24/7. But the fact is that the considerations that we are the true north, strong and free. Being strong and free is not enough for me, not for majority. I don't think we can go without LOVE, without some loving and some justice. And the motto of our empire is the children are innocent. The motto of our empire are the children are innocent. And I was just check some past videos. You can see that we got a lot of work to do in terms of fixing our infrastructure, the potholes just around my city here, around my neighborhood. So many potholes, and some are very deep, some are very potholes. You gotta fix the roads. The roads, the bridges, the infrastructure. We have lots of work to do. We have to implement my DRT theory, check my past videos, transcripts, hundreds of them, and over the past 3.5 years, get acquainted with my DRT, debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, the U dot universal E dot exchange U dot UE, aka the imperial dollar, of course, for the mass rehabilitation, of course, for the mass rehabilitation, of course, of the North American collective, of course, which we're gonna have, of course, now to be, and that's what we're gonna get doing on that, and so we're gonna have to do, of course, ourselves here, the Imperial Republic, merge and fuse, of course, consequently, what we're gonna have now to relate ourselves in all the domains, we're gonna figure 44-yard field goal attempt. Was it good? I don't know, 44-yard field goal attempt. I missed it. Yeah, Seahawks are leading by 14-3. This is 44-yard field goal attempt against the Cardinals. So it's 17-3. 17-3 is 14, so they were leading by 14 points. This is at the beginning of the season. It was week 4, right? This is week 4 because Seahawks were 2-1. Yeah, week 4, 3.5 months ago. And Cardinals were also 2-1. 2-1 is the record. There's Donald. He gets some rockets. Wow. He's a great quarterback. Wow, that was a great pass from who's the quarterback for the Cardinals? Who's playing? The number 18. That was a good coverage, but he got Harrison Jr. Harrison, number 1, the quarterback. Wow, that was a rocket right in the hands of Harrison Jr. and he gets out of bounds. So, I see a lot of mathematics. The ellipsis, trajectory, the height, the weight, it kind of goes in an ellipsis or sometimes straight line. So it depends how the ball goes. Sometimes it goes in like a semicircle also, like a circular manner, a straight line manner, and there's velocity involved. So there's mathematics and fractions and percentages, a lot of percentages and time management and the distance, the distances, the time management, the first downs. There's a lot of math in gridiron, in North American football. We're going to merge the CFL, Canadian Football League, and the NFL. The NBA is already good to go. NHL as well. It's not really nationally. NBA and NHL, they're not really national. National Basketball Association, aka the NBA, and the NHL, National Hockey League, they're not really national. They're binational. So all the love affair is a binational affair for the Imperial Republic of the 63, the American Canadian Imperial Republic. The American Canadian Imperial Republic for the 63. For SSD, we're going to rebuild the ghettos, rebuild the North American inner urban city by a mass public-private partnership and invest in financing tourism. Citizens are going to be credited 4 days, 4 times a year. Get acquainted again with past videos. You can learn more about that protocol, which we're going to implement by implementing the debt refusion theory and the creation of the UE, which is going to enable us to mass finance, again, by a public-private partnership, all citizens who are 16 and over of the Imperial Republic to mass travel by train, by plane, by airport, anywhere across the 63, because we're going to fuse Canada and United States in my way best. Granddaddy Trump and Connie's absent. He went to China. I'm going to have to do a discourse on that. That's where I'm focusing on the geopolitical realities of today in relation to the North American Canadian complex, the North American civilizational complex, and in relation, of course, to the fact that we have the deterioration of relation. Now, I predicted an international conflagration in 2019, October, but Granddaddy Trump was president back then. Uncle Kanye was absent in England somewhere as the Bank of England governor. And I did not predict Donald Trump's re-election. That I did not predict. So that came as a surprise in November for me, 2024. And I did not predict that we're going to have such deterioration of relation with the United States, right? I did not predict. And since August, we're designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat, And we have to also regard ourselves that the RCMP has warned us since about 2015 that there's a growing transnational criminal syndicate organized groups operating, and that might be in part to the DMAA, the Direct Military Assistance and Action, which in parentheses has the C. The C stands for consequence, and as the motto of NATO goes, inanimus consuelo liber, that's Latin for a mind unfettered in deliberation. One has to pinpoint exactly, of course, the exactitude where we have, of course, now to be consequential about in all the domains where we are to be relegated ourselves, in all that relationships of our beings, that the realities of which we have today are in consequence to what has occurred in parallel to my prediction and vis-a-vis the fact that now we have the added pressure. So back to the DMAA, just to discuss it a little bit, it's a not just a theory of philosophy, it is a work tool. So it has to be consequently established as a work tool, as a work method, of course, a method of work, as a work in progress, as a work tool, as a philosophy, as a theory, as a modus operandi, as of course a protocol for not for NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization member countries, and of course for our coming of our fusion in the 63 imperial complex, the American Canadian Imperial Republic, the Imperial United States of America, which is going to include Canada into the Imperial Republic. Not 51, not one. Donald Trump, do the math properly. It's 13, just like the original 13 states. Going to add 13, and that's going to be the perpetual 63 Imperial Republic, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, the Atlantic to the Pacific, one for all, all for one principle for the 21st century. We're going to, of course, redo the Constitution, mass building, mass financing fitness, mass financing the youth, mass financing tourism four times a year, the spring equinox and solstice, the summer equinox and solstice, the summer equinox and solstice, the spring equinox and solstice, the winter equinox and solstice. We're going to finance all the citizens of the Imperial Republic 4 days where they can, well, 4 nights basically, with all expenses covered. Don't expect, of course, caviar, but 4 nights lodging and 4 nights in the hotels, motels, and breakfast and lunch, Me, I'm also going to hamburger it. Going to be hamburgers and cheeseburgers and pizza, For breakfast, maybe some bagels. That rock and roll omelet, I can rock and roll with an omelet and bacon and omelet, I rock and roll that. And this is going to establish a mass imperial esprit de corps as we're going to move towards a new BDD, benevolent dominance and dominion, by implementing my trinity of theories, especially the DRT, which I'm now going to discuss. Super important that I discuss, because the DRT is part of what is going to enable us to do all the aforementioned work of rebuilding the infrastructure, rebuilding the ghettos, aka the North American inner urban cities, and of course mass finance fitness and the rehabilitation of a vast proportion of our criminal population, which is going to put to do some work rebuilding the North American inner urban cities, the streets, the highways, the bridges. So the DRT, the debt refusion theory, is my theory protocol, which has to be implemented because we're at a point of having an emergency. And the fact, of course, even if the PBO, Parliamentary Budget Officer of Canada, 3.5 months ago, warned that Canada is done within the next 12 to 18 years if we don't change. So this mass change is going to be, of course, by implementing the DRT, the debt refusion theory. So I need you to just pay close attention as I'm going to watch another Seahawks, Los Angeles Rams versus Seahawks. Let's watch this one. And they're going to discuss the DRT, the debt refusion theory, in consequence, of course, for us to be now coalesced and doing it. So we're going to watch versus Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's see what we're going to watch. Another Seahawks. Give me another Seahawks. Seahawks. Where it is? Yeah, the Seahawks. 1 month ago, versus Tennessee Titans. Let's watch this one. So the DRT, debt refusion theory, stands again for D, debt, R, refusion, T theory. It includes the monetary integration theory. The monetary integration theory is, of course, the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. The European Union, countries of Europe, back in the 90s, they created the ECB, the European Central Bank, and they, of course, implemented the theory known as MIT, monetary integration theory, in Europe. So my DRT theory includes that theory, but we're going to do for the North American Collective, for the realities of where we are today in the year 2026. with mass public and private financial stress on the majority of the populations, including myself, are financially stressed and have over debt burdens. The debt has reached record levels. So the DRT explained. So it relates to our North American collective destiny as a collective civilizational complex, past, present, and future. And this strategy, which we're going to enable, is part of my total, what it's called, the bipolar, not to be confused with the psychiatric psychological condition, but the bipolar geopolitical strategy for total BDD, benevolent dominance and dominion for world peace of the Imperial Republic by fusing Canada and the United States into the Imperial Republican complex. So the DRT explained, again, it includes monetary integration theory. We're going to take all the public-private debt of Canada, including my $10,000 as a citizen. I have $10,000 debt to the RBC, Royal Bank of Canada. So we're going to take all the debt coast to coast, ocean to ocean of all the citizens. We're going to add it all up. So do the addition of all the public-private debt. That public-private debt of Canada, we're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to add it with the public-private debt of the United States. So we're going to add it with the public-private debt of the United States. With that money and the money circulation, we're going to fuse basically Bank of Canada and the Federal Reserve. We're going to create the Imperial Central Bank, ICB, and we're going to issue a new currency based on the value of the United States dollar, the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot UE, the UE, because that's what money fundamentally is. Money is a unit of exchange to buy and sell, buy and sell, buy and sell. Money is fundamentally a unit of exchange to buy and sell. The UE, aka the imperial dollar. Now, this money is going to be the new money in circulation, the UE. With this established, we're going to create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, the Dragon Army, the Imperial Integrated SSD Legion, Security, Service, and Defense, with the Dragon Army, the Imperial Integrated SSD Legion with the Dancing Goddess Army, aka officially the Imperial Integrated Dance League for environmental education and action, because we got a lot of work to do on the field. You see that it takes the individual and the collective, and we have to patrol our streets as the DJ to make sure recycling is properly put in the recycling, because I see often it's put in the garbage and it should go in the recycling. So we're going to have to monitor, and that's why it requires my brother citizen Bill Gates of flock safety. We're going to put webcams and film the DGA, the Dragon Army, in motion 24/7, action, security, service, and defense surveillance, action, security, service, and defense surveillance, action, security, service, and defense surveillance 24/7 is the mass public-private partnership, surveillance, security, service, and defense, and action for the environment, environmental education and action. We're going to dance, we're going to rock and roll, we're going to work out, mass finance fitness, we're going to mass finance citizens fitness, and the DRT will also enable us for the mass implementation of the tourist protocols for citizens to be accorded tourism activities. We're going to be accorded, of course, in the initiatives where we're going to have to be the plateau to also have establish and implement the Imperial Criminal Rehabilitation Act, where our brothers and sisters who lost their liberty, because it's in our geopolitical collective interest of both Canada and the United States to rehabilitate the people who are incarcerated and who deserve second, third chances, sometimes fourth chances even, and our brothers and sisters who, of course, are also in a financially precarious situation. So to rehabilitate the population and the populace, that is going to be something which we're going to have, of course, to be consequently in all, of course, the relationships where we are now. So that is the fundamental aspects, of course, of our well-being, which we're going to establish together as a mass public-private partnership. So that is, of course, the fundamental aspects of the coming of the Imperial Republic and the debt row fusion theory, the DRT, for the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit, which is going to, of course, fundamentally, it's 13-3. Well, Tennessee had a bad season. Tennessee Titans, they were 1-9 at this point against the Seahawks. So the DRT once again. So I'm going to explain it again. So again, the DRT integrates monetary integration theory, right? Monetary integration theory, again, is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union in the 90s by the creation of the ECB, the European Central Bank, to issue the common currency known as the euro, of course. So that is to be taken into consideration. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to take all the public and the private debt It will be required a mass public-private partnership of all organizations, institutions such as my Royal Bank of Canada, the public and private banks, the Bank of Canada, the Federal Reserve, BlackRock, and Blackstone are two different financial institutions. They're split, but they still work together on some certain financial dealings. Of course, in the 80s, 90s, Vanguard and all, of course, are going to be involved at all levels. So we're going to take all the public-private debt of Canada, individual citizens, and we're going to convert it into US dollars. We're going to add it with the United States public-private debt. That money is going to be the initial money supply for this new central bank. Whence we're going to establish a interest rate of 10% maximum. So after this implementation of the DRT, we're not going to be able to have more than 10% interest charged on the loans thereafter. And with this, we're going to rebuild the infrastructure, the bridges, the potholes. We're going to rehabilitate the criminal population. We're going to fuse the RCMP and the FBI into the Imperial Police Service. We're going to get rid of the border, do a census, see who's been living here for at least continuously 7 years without having left 1 year unless they were part of course, the United States military or some other Congress. And of course, whatever the case may be, we're going to have to discern. And our brothers and sisters are going to establish the Imperial Criminal Rehabilitation Protocol and Act. And of course, if one has 44 criminal convictions over the past 11 years, then it's not going to be a Imperial criminal rehabilitation, but probably the Imperial Dracula Protocol instead. You have to have some justice and righteousness, but basically we have to discern as we're going to implement the individual for the collective and the collective for the individual. And as we're going to fuse the 63 imperial states together, we're going to have one state for all. And in each state, we're going to have the dragon's layers where the Dragon Army will train, exercise, and SSD, and will integrate with all police forces, security forces, institutions, organizations, universities, and of course, as the Imperial Democratic Republic or the N.A.C.W.P, the North American Collective Workers' Party, the Universal Revolutionary Centrist Public-Private Partnership supporting party, which we're going to fuse the existing parties into this mass party, which we're going to implement my strategies, protocols, and visions for the Imperial Democratic Republic to fuse Canada, United States into this imperial body. So that is the spark of the dream, and it's for the greater good, for the self and the individual. And the DRT, debt refusion theory, will enable us to have and do so much good, rebuild the buildings, the infrastructure, the bridges, the roads, mass finance fitness. It will require big mega corporations involved and small businesses and big corporations and the small and the all to integrate and mass finance. We're going to mass finance, of course, tourism, mass finance fitness, mass finance my workout, mass finance with people to walk for an hour, credit some UEs, imperial dollars, as we have the 5G towers and networks, and all citizens of the empire. We're going to do a census. We're going to accord some citizenships, the new citizenships, new digital ID, new passports. And of course, we're also going to create for all who are citizens, or if one becomes a citizen automatically so. But of course, we're going to accord. We're going to create 16, those who are 16 and over. We're going to create as a via public-private partnership, perhaps Microsoft, Google, YouTube, and Rogers, and all corporations are going to work together for SSD, security, service, and defense. We're going to have the smartphones, the imperial smartphones, as mass public-private partnership. That's only going to be for citizens of the empire due to security reasons, and only citizens of the empire will serve in the Dragon Army and the Dancing Goddess Army. And to be eligible, one will have to have lived in Canada or the United States for the past 7 years. 7 years sounds good to me. And 7 years, if you don't have 44 criminal convictions, if you have 2 or 3, we can be lenient and give second chances and make do by filling up some potholes, helping the Dragon Army, helping the rehabilitation of our brothers and sisters who've lost their liberty or who are, of course, in different financial precarious situation, and build more social housing, of course, with rules and regulations, accord for at least a year or a certain allotted time the apartment if it needs to rehabilitate brothers and sisters, who are homeless or, in need, but they have to have the volition and the will. And we're going to be also compassionate, goodness and kindness and compassionate. We're going to be goodness and kindness, but also justice. And, sometimes we got to punish, I guess, sometimes we got to punish and take a more justice approach and give people second and third chances, and discern and give the protocols for this mass fusion, the Imperial Police Service, IPS, Imperial Police Service, IPS, Imperial Police Service, the IPS, which is basically fusing the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the FBI. The king is absent. The king gotta go. The king gotta go. It's time for the Imperial Republic of the 63, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and I'm gonna explore Connie's visit to China. I think he's meeting with Xi Jinping in a few days. And of course, if you want to discuss China, you have to have some knowledge of the governance of China. Now, personally, myself, I have no debt to China, and I have no antagonistic feelings. And basically, I can't, as much as I am self-educated and via books and documentaries and spending many years with one foot in the streets, one foot in the libraries, and hitting the libraries and reading and self-education in the world of geopolitics. This is my special interest as an Aspie, but I'm not on the ground in the conflicts in the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, or in Russia, Ukraine. So it's always my protocols are for the North American collective first and foremost, and then we can strategize for the foreign policies which we're going to implement, but fundamentally coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and then we could do the referendums to further advance foreign policy if so need be. If not, of course, we're going to have uh, the internal domestic affairs principally and in principiate, and rebuild the ghettos, rebuild the infrastructure, rebuild the roads, the bridges, mass finance fitness, mass finance the rehabilitation of our population. Of course, it's going to be a mass affair together as a mass public-private partnership, but extending it for the NATO plateau, the North American Theater Organization, and concordates with my DMAA, the direct military assistance and action, whether we take action or we assist, and its potential consequences, such as having internal sabotages and in nation states, powerful nation states, such as, for example, Russia and China, fomenting hacking and sabotaging and supporting transnational criminal syndicate organized groups because we have taken action or assisted, for example, non-NATO member countries, right? For example, Ukraine is not part of NATO, right? So that constitutes DMAA. It has to be military. Nothing to do with humanitarian here. It has to be strictly military. The DMAA, direct military assistance and action, which I discussed in the past, is not just a protocol, a theory, but it's a work tool, basically, fundamentally created for NATO. But it can be for the Imperial Republic of the 63. We're going to have to establish it in concordance to whether we assist or take action in terms of involvement in external affairs. And then we can move forward after this work of fusing and implementing the DRT, Debt Fusion Theory, first and foremost. And this can be extended, the Universal Exchange Unit, we can extend it to NATO member countries, even BIS, Bank of International Settlements, BIS, the Bank of International Settlements. It could be expanded, of course, transnationally. But first and foremost, fundamentally for the 63, as we're going to create this new Imperial Republic here in the free world, in the new world, in the empire of the free, the brave, the strong, the loving, and the just. Not just the strong and the free. That's not enough for me. As much as I'm a geopolitical analyst who has predicted what's happening now, and I understand peace through strength as a doctrine, but I cannot fully support it. 50-50 on that. Granddaddy Trump, peace through strength got to be balanced, especially for our internal brothers and sisters, citizens, with love and compassion and understanding, and love and compassion and understanding, because it's not enough. The motto of the empire is, the children are innocent. The motto of the dragon army is, nobody's born a dragon. Took me blood, sweat, and tears in this room of St. Temple, survived COVID, had plenty of scars, shed rivers of tears, shed rivers of tears, my scars. I don't like violence, but I'm hyper vigilant, and we're gonna play that DD defense. SSD, coast to coast, ocean to ocean security, service and defense, coast to coast, ocean to ocean security, service and defense, and ensuring freedom. Freedom has to be ensured, and we need some loving and some justice with that, and that's what it is. Like rock and roll. We're not gonna play that calmness that Michael Sam, NFL didn't let Michael Sam play in the NFL because he kissed his white boyfriend when he got drafted in 2014, March or April, spring 2014. Michael Salmons, that's how we gotta rock and roll it. Gotta Dragonomy, gotta be meeting your own dragon. I'm working on the 40-day protocol. Basically, it's gonna be my general integrated total body training system was the standard test, physical test with a standard English test, standard mathematics test, nothing too fancy. A standard mathematics and standard English, especially proficiency in English and Quebec French, and physical test, the General War Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the Dragon Army workout, the General War Integrated Total Body Training System, which I created back in 2019, and I performed myself more than 372 sessions thereof. I created myself more than 272 sessions myself. I performed fully and integrally, and of course in the manner that we be now, and that is of course where we are now to be coordinate, and of course to appellate all this implementation of the strategies vis-a-vis all the imperial republican affairs which are going to constitute the 63 states, or the mass imperial new constitution under the stars, under the sun, under the stars on earth, and of course individual state constitution in Quebec is going to be for sure the protection of the French language, because it's the great linguistic compromise which we made a long time ago and which we continue to make, so that is part of the rock and roll strategies and protocols and initiatives, and fundamentally the dream. The dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom is of course fundamentally a dream for a public-private partnership. Of course, is a mass public-private partnership that is concordant with the dream, where we have now of course to be relegated. My dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, is again fundamentally a call for a mass public-private partnership, saluting the truckers on the road, butchers, bakers, those flipping some hamburgers, cheeseburgers, cleaning workers, nurses, finishing their 12-hour shift, the warehouse workers, the dock workers, public workers need some tickets, and we're going to build the fort together on the Canadian-US border. We're going to build the biggest ever sports arena coliseum ever built, which is going to be of course 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome. The Caesar Superdome of course is where my Super Bowl 47 was played, which has several nicknames, aka Hardball Bowl, aka Blackout Bowl, aka Brawl Bowl, and of course that is the consequential building of the mass Imperial Coliseum, which is going to be 11 times bigger than the New Orleans Caesar Superdome, when me and Donald Trump are going to fight in a boxing match, and we're going to incorporate it. And of course that's what we're going to do. Of course together we're going to build the Forgotten Goddess Geopolitics temple, which is going to be 11 times bigger than the St. Joseph's Oratory. Here we have a structure in Montreal called the St. Joseph's Oratory, and we're going to build the Forgotten Goddess temple 11 times bigger than that structure. We're going to of course build the mass dragon house of the dragon, and that's what it's going to be now to get on the go with that, the building of the Forgotten Goddess temple, as well as the Imperial People's Coliseum and the pyramid, scarlet, crimson, scarlet and crimson. That's what we're going to be with the red. The scarlet and crimson is going to be, their shades of red basically. Scarlet and crimson are shades of red, and we're going to build this mass pyramid of course for the North American complementary of course strategies of the Imperial Republic, the House of the Dragon pyramid, and the Rainbow People's Palace. The Rainbow People's Palace is going to be for my fellow neurodivergent community and Aspies, and that's what we're going to be now to do, of course, complementary, where we're going to have to be building these four mass structures. Is going to be part of our fusion thereof into the Imperial Republic, and that's what we're going to have to be doing now, to be correlated with all the correlations which are going to transplant us and move us towards a new reality, a geopolitical reality, which was going to include a little bit of spirituality. My spirituality got some rock and roll. It's always God bless, and God has kissed the empire. Children are innocent. Nobody's born a dragon. As I aforementioned, that I'm working to build a 4-day the 40-day, 40-day, the 40-day dragon layers training. Nobody's born a dragon. I had to wrestle with the dragon to change my name, and still have to pay officially to change it. Dragon that A into an O, with rivers of tears and blood, sweat, and tears, and losing weight, and years to wrestle with the dragon, and showed me a mirror, called me some names, showed me some darker aspects of the self, which sometimes are unadmitted, sometimes they're subconscious, and we got to work on it. Where we have, my brothers and sisters who are blacks, men, black women, my neighbors included. My neighbors are black here, and of the empire, my brothers and sisters who are blacks are going to be the 13.4% of the population is co-equal with us, all citizens, as long as they have lived in Canada, United States in the past 7 years, starting let's say March, as we're going to move towards the Imperial headquarters in Hawk Island, Montreal, on the island, of course, on the boulevard And we're gonna go, of course, for the chalet atop Mount Royal, at the chalet atop Mount Royal. My favorite headquarters there atop Mount Royal. That is the chalet, and that is, of course, the representation where we're gonna have now, of course, to be, and that is the chalet where we're gonna establish a mass building thereof for the imperial headquarters. And yours truly, Clit Dick Dick Clit Androgynous, little tiny scar, sometimes goes rocket, micro, little Clit Dick, call me General Micro. Small, tiny hands, tiny feet, tiny. Sometimes goes rocket. God is blessed, Elon Musk, but that's what I gotta get. I already know for more than a few years now. Blah blah blah. Rock&Roll, firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, electricians, the plumbers, the welders. We're gonna build the imperial defense strategy. We're gonna build the golden dome. We're gonna put a hawk in it. Build more satellites and integrated with the satellites all over. We're gonna build more places across our big cities of the 63, as we're going to have the Dragon's Lair, where we're going to have monitors to monitor all activity that comes to planes, trucks, to our borders of the 63, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, where citizens of the empire we're going to participate, and we're going to allocate those cell phones, which are going to be only for citizens. We're going to have for security service and defense complex based on my CIT, citizen integration theory, the citizen integration theory, the citizen integration theory. We're going to formulate, of course, the citizen integration theory, and this is going to infuse us implementing in the fusion of the RCMP and the FBI into the Imperial Police Service, IPS, Imperial Police Service, and this is going to have the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, at all levels, of course. The CIT is going to have at all levels, of course, of the implementation thereof, and consequential to the DFT, Democratic Fusion Theory, which is going to enable us and move us forward the Union of the Imperial Republic with mass financing, fitness, and tourism, as I said aforementionedly before, that I'm working to develop the 40-day training. That's what's going to be the requirement for all citizens. You have to be a citizen of the Empire to be a member of the Dragon Army or the DGA and the SSD Legion. 40-day rights, 40-day training system. Each state of the 63 will have the Dragon Lair, their lair of the Dragon, a semi-military integrated security service defense. You have to be able to march for hours, do push-ups, hawks, and to be eligible, you gotta have to be the General War Integrated Whole Body Training System, as the Dragon Army is going to be suffused and integrated with all existing armies, security service apparatuses of Canada, which are going to be superseded by the SSD Legion, Security Service and Defense Legion, and work together with the IPS, the Imperial Police Service, which is going to be by the fusion of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and the RCMP, and we're going to create the Imperial Homeland Security Department, Ministry, Imperial Homeland Security Ministry, by fusing the DHS and CIA and CSIS, DHS, CIA, and CSIS, and as brothers and sisters, we're going to establish that coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and make this new Concordiate, rebuilding the buildings, and got some moves on those housings and make housing accessible again and build more buildings. Construction workers, you rock and roll with those construction workers. Mortgages aside, we're going to set an interest rate level after we implement the DRT, debt fusion theory, for the creation of the UE. We're going to, of course, implement the 10%, of course, maximum strategies for maximum. Maximum is going to not, we're not going to be able to have more than 10% interest rates after we implement the DRT, the debt fusion theory, in consequence to the aforementioned. It's going to enable us. The DRT, that is, the debt fusion theory, is going to enable this mass public-private partnership, as we're going to concordiate, and we're going to do it in concordium to all the other theories, the CIT and the DFT, which they go hand in hand together. So the DRT first, I guess, but then with the DRT is going to enable us to do, we have to do the census of the population, accord amnesty, and then secure the imperial borders. Accord the amnesty if they live here for 7 years, 7 years fair. If they have not been convicted of 44 criminal convictions, if they if they have felonies and criminal convictions, then we're gonna not give citizenship, but nor we're gonna give the imperial criminal amnesty, but we're gonna implement the imperial Dracula protocols. got some doing that good passing and pretty much of that rock and roll with it. Pledge your allegiance to our family. We're gonna finish by a minute of the states of the empire, 63, starting with where I am in Quebec, the French state Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Illinois, Utah, Oregon. Of the 63, one for all for one, Alabama, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Minnesota, Maryland, Arkansas, Hawaii, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Dakota, South Dakota, North Carolina, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, New York, New Jersey, Maine, Vermont, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Washington, California, Kansas, Kentucky, Connecticut, Texas, Tennessee, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Northwest Territories, Nunavut, Prince Edward Island, Virginia, Oregon, Massachusetts, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York, New Jersey, gotta get it, gotta be it, Delaware, gotta be it for Arkansas, Arizona, gotta be it for Michigan, Maryland, North Dakota, South Dakota, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, said what did we say? Alabama, Missouri, 63, always let our empire, let it be, let it rise, pledge your allegiance to our family.